5 EV charging and CO2 myths. Welcome to Go Green Hub. My name is George, and where we are going to go through the different myths, because if you're looking to buy an EV and there's all kinds of noise on the internet about they're bad for the environment and what about this and that and the lithium batteries and mining, greenhouse, the forest, all that kind of stuff, we're going to get right down to that in this video. So hold on tight and let's get going. So myth number one here is, are electric vehicles worse off for the environment than gasoline cars because of power plant emissions? Now, we know that with electric cars, there are no tailpipe emissions. It's how the battery is manufactured, the lithium, it is the manufacturing process. And let's just talk about the power plant emissions that it's going to take to not only charge your vehicle, but all the other stuff that's wrapped up in getting this electric vehicle to you. Now, from the Environmental Protection Agency here, they say that electric vehicles, they have no tailpipe emissions, and that's obvious. In generating electricity to charge EVs, however, they may create some carbon pollution there, but the amount is really going to vary based on how the power is generated, whether it's with coal, natural gas, or for the most part, zero emissions if it was solar or wind or hydroelectric. Now, even accounting for, emissions, researchers show that EVs, they're typically responsible for lower level of greenhouse gases than the average new gasoline car. And to the extent that more renewable energy sources like wind and solar, which we just talked about, more of that is coming online. So the footprint is really going to be less. Myth number two, electric vehicles are worse for the climate than gasoline because of the battery manufacturing. Now, this is a big one here. And the fact is, according to the EPA and the government in the United States, the greenhouse gas emissions associated with an electric vehicle over its lifetime are typically lower than those from an average gasoline-powered vehicle, even when accounting for manufacturing. Now, the whole key there is typically lower, because there's always a gray area where people can say, no, you're wrong. And so what the studies have shown, that making a typical electric vehicle, they can create more carbon monoxide than a gasoline car. Really? Well, this would be only because of additional energy required to manufacture the EV battery. But still, over the lifetime of the electric vehicle, the total greenhouse gas emissions associated with the manufacturing, charging, and driving the EV, they're typically going to be lower than a gasoline car. And again, that's typical. And that's because the EVs have zero tailpipe emissions. Now, check out this chart right over here. This is the life cycle of greenhouse gases for an electric vehicle versus a gasoline car. Now, these are just an illustration here, but if you look at the part on the left is gasoline, and on the right there is the EV. And if you see on the right, the EV, about 18% of greenhouse gases comes from the battery, manufacturing, recycling the battery, and all that. Now, what is next is the orange, and that's other manufacturing, and to end the life of the vehicle, kind of. The gray, that's feedstock and fuel. So what that means is, what does it take in order to actually manufacture this whole thing, to get it done? All right. Now, the orange, which is on the left and it's not on the right, the orange is the actual vehicle in use, which is the tailpipe emissions and all that stuff coming out the back. So you could see from this chart that, yes, EVs have some greenhouse effect. They do have some CO2, but not like gasoline cars because the way they are on the road, period. Myth number three is that the increase in electric vehicles entering the market, they're going to collapse the U.S. power grid. Now, this is a huge thing, and everyone's all worried about that because in California, Texas, just the grid has been going down for weather problems and fires. And so the truth is that the increasing number of electric vehicles on the road, they're going to use more demand on the grid system. Now, there's a couple things over here. EVs, everyone says that, hey, just charge them at night when power is less and the air conditionings are not running as much in our house. Yeah, that's great. We can do that. But let's just say that, you're on the road or whatever, those kind of things. And so you're going to have to, the grid's going to continually get better. All right. It's not going to deplete. Yes, we're using more electricity. We're charging more phones, more computers, more cell phone towers, all that stuff. Yes. But we're working on trying to catch up to that. So are the EVs going to take down the grid? You know, in California right now, EVs contribute to about 1% of the electric draw on the grid. So 1% is not that much. It's everything else. Now, something they're talking about in the future here is EV vehicle to grid charging. So what that means, if the EVs are all plugged in somewhere during the day, now this is in the future, these batteries have a full charge from at night. And as the grid gets strained and air conditioning and all kinds of power, these EVs can produce or give up some of their battery juice into the grid and make it less demanding. And then later on at night, boom, just recharge it up. And that's when the cars, the batteries, solar, the energy production, and the whole grid, that's when everyone's on the same page and they're sharing and they're flexing their abilities to charge and to provide energy. Myth number 4 is there's nowhere to charge. Hey, everyone knows that there's some kind of range anxiety, like, where am I going to charge my car if I go on a trip? Or what if I know there's a charging station, it's by my Starbucks or by my store, wherever I shop, but you know what? They're full and I can't get a spot. Then what do you do? Well, the fact is that, these electric vehicles can even be plugged into an outlet, just like a blender or something like that. It takes longer to charge them, but you know what? They can be done. And you'll find over 51,000 public charging stations, that are available right now in the United States. These EVs, they have a range 200-300 plus miles, and they're getting better. Most people are only driving 50 or 100 miles. And think about that. How much driving are you doing on a daily basis or a weekly basis? And maybe you only need to charge it, every couple days. I believe don't let the battery go below 50%. Okay. If you can charge it when it's about 60, that way you have that range anxiety. And you know what? We've got a video for the range anxiety up over there. So if you want to go take a look at that, you can see some videos on that. Access to charging stations is only going to get better in the future. Electric vehicles are not going away. Myth number 5 is electric vehicles don't have enough range to handle daily travel demand. We just talked about that, okay? Most people drive 50 miles a day. 85% travel under 100 miles on a typical day. So, most of these EVs with these ranges of 200, 300 miles, they're enough. And just figure that out for yourself. How often do you fill up your tank of gas? And usually tank of gas is 300 to 400 miles. How often you go to the gas station? Now, there is some range anxiety, again, up on the corner there. You can check out that video. But the fuel economy of an electric vehicle is going to be okay for most people. A lot of families have 2 vehicles, one gasoline and one electric. So that way, if they need to go on a long trip or something like that, and they're just not comfortable, hey, hop in and take the CO2 polluting vehicle with you. So those are the 5 myths. This is George, Go Green Hub. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a fantastic day.
The Go Green Hub is the go-to source for all things of sustainable energy and transportation.